guys, welcome back to Ivy Rose Knows. All right, so Gypsy Rose doesn't identify as a murderer. Let's talk about this, okay? Now, Gypsy Rose's argument is that, well, she didn't do the stabbings, that Nick did it, right? She's not a murderer, but she is, all right? Because I want people to remember one thing. When he got there that night, June 10th, 2 a.m. in the morning, that morning, he got to the house. She opened the door, and the first thing that Gypsy Rose did was handed him the gloves and the knife. She handed the knife to him for him to go into the other room and kill her mother. That, to me, makes her just as guilty as him. Because at the end of the day, Nick was her weapon, guys. Nick was her weapon, just like the knife was Nick's weapon. That makes you just as responsible as it does Nick, if not more, because let's be real, Deedee would not be dead if it weren't for Gypsy. Nick was never going to come into that house and murder Deedee. And then she wants to sit there and be like, it was inevitable. He was going to murder somebody anyway. But was he really? She knows that. Because in my opinion, it was inevitable for Gypsy to kill Deedee. Okay? That, to me, was inevitable. Because she attempted the first time. She pulled the gun, the BB gun. She pulled the knife on her. And she backed her into a corner. That right there shows that at some point, she was going to kill Deedee. Regardless of anything else. Her ultimate goal was to kill Deedee. She had it done. Nick would not have killed her if it wasn't for Gypsy. Gypsy was going to kill her either way, in my opinion. Let's be real. That was her ultimate goal. So if Nick had said no, she was going to find another way, people. She was probably going to do it herself. The only reason Gypsy didn't poison Deedee because Gypsy needed to get away with it. That is the only reason why Nick was pulled into this whole thing. Was because she needed a scapegoat. That's why Deedee wasn't just poisoned. That's why nothing else happened. It's because you can't blame that on Nick. So, I don't know. I mean, but ultimately, at the end of the day, all right, we saw the tutorial video where she went and she told him where she would be, taught him how to go. I mean, that was damning. But more than that was the fact that when he got there and she opened that door, she handed him the knife and gloves. She was absolutely 100% responsible for the murder of her mother. So you are a murderer, Gypsy. Not only that, you pled guilty to it. So I'm just saying, there's that. So you can identify however you want to. But at the end of the day, Gypsy is in fact a murderer. Gypsy is in fact the reason why Deedee is dead and why Nick is in prison. Now, she could say it until she's blue in the face, that it was inevitable, that Nick wanted to kill somebody, but what we actually know is Nick would not have killed Deedee if it wasn't for Gypsy, and that Gypsy was going to kill Deedee regardless of whether Nick was involved or not. That was her ultimate goal. So what we truly know is Gypsy was actually her. Was actually that it was going to be inevitable for Gypsy to kill Deedee, not Nick to kill somebody. I'm just saying. And the fact that she could so easily plot and plan that murder without any guilt or remorse just shows me that she can do it again. Gypsy Rose is most definitely capable of killing again. She had no problem doing it the first time. Never felt guilt, never felt remorse, never took responsibility ever. So she is more than capable of doing it again. And let somebody get in her way, guys. That's the scary part. Let somebody get in her way of what she actually wants. And that becomes a seriously dangerous situation. I'm just saying. So she wants to be out here in people's comments, the poor little victim that she is, of course, acting like Nick is the psychopath, when in reality, who was the one that was going to kill her regardless? Who was the one whose ultimate goal was to have her dead. And take a look at how she used and manipulated Nick. Let's look at Nick. Now let's be clear, Nick isn't innocent. He committed a brutal murder. But legally and morally, it's really important to understand Nick never had any charges of assault, fighting, anything aggressive, nothing in his history. He also had the mental capacity of someone who struggled with distinguishing between fantasy and reality, okay? He thought that he was helping the girl he loved get away from her abusive situation. Gypsy manipulated Nick. We know this. Gypsy weaponized Nick. She weaponized his mental condition. She used it to her advantage. Gypsy gave the plan. She prepared the weapon and handed it over to him. And afterwards, she went into the other room, tried to have sex, went to a hotel, tried to have sex again, like none of it really mattered. And it's sad because the justice system doesn't always know how to handle people with autism. And Nicholas Godejohn is living proof of it. Does he deserve to be punished? Yeah, he deserves to be punished. But does Nicholas Godejohn deserve life in prison with no parole? While the mastermind walks free and signs book deals, guys. And that's the part of this whole Gypsy Rose, I don't identify as a murderer story that nobody wants to talk about. Justice isn't about who did it, it's about why. That is where justice plays a part in this. It's all about why it happened. Nick did it because he thought he was helping her and he wanted to be with her because her mother was being abusive and wouldn't allow them to be together and he loved her. That's why Nick did it. But why did Gypsy do it? Well, Gypsy didn't do it because she was a victim. Let's be real, guys. She didn't do it because she was in some imminent danger. Gypsy did it because her mother wouldn't let her go out and be with men that she met online and act in sexually destructive manner with men she didn't know. I don't know, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will be sure to get back to you. Guys, like this video. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And don't forget to hit that bell, guys, because we'll be doing more over here on YouTube. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later.